The first thing I saw when the glass doors opened was my 9-year-old daughter on her knees. Not in a church. Not beside her bed. Not because she had fallen. Sophie was kneeling in the lobby of the company I built. Her little hands were pressed flat against her skirt, her shoulders shaking as she tried not to cry too loudly. Around her, employees stood frozen near reception, pretending not to stare and failing miserably. Standing over her was Preston Hale, my wife's executive assistant. He wore a tailored navy suit, one hand tucked into his pocket, the other holding a paper. Cup of coffee. Dark coffee had splashed across one of his expensive loafers. His mouth curled into a thin, satisfied smile. "Say it properly," he told my daughter. "You don't mumble an apology in this building." Sophie's voice trembled. "I'm sorry." Louder. I stopped 3 steps inside the lobby. My phone was already in my hand. I had taken it out in the parking garage after Sophie's art teacher called me and said, carefully, "Mr. Mercer, Sophie is upset. She called from your wife's office, but someone took the phone from her." The second I saw Sophie kneeling, my thumb hit record. 10 years earlier, when I designed the security layout for this building, I insisted on overlapping camera angles. One camera watched reception. One watched the turnstiles. One watched the executive elevators. I understood systems. I understood blind spots. And in that moment, I understood that my wife had allowed a blind spot in our marriage too. Become a man standing over our child. "Sophie," I said. Her head snapped up. The relief on her face hit me harder than any insult Preston could have thrown. She tried to stand, but Preston lifted one finger. "We're not finished," he said. I walked toward him. He did not move. That was his first mistake. At that exact moment, my wife, Claire Mercer, stepped out of the executive elevator. Cream blazer, swept back hair, phone to her ear. She looked exactly like the CEO magazines loved to photograph. Sharp, elegant, untouchable. Then she saw me. "Nathan," she said, lowering the phone. "Why are you here?" I looked at Sophie first. Her cheeks were wet. One knee had a red mark where the marble floor had pressed through her tights. Her backpack lay twisted near the reception couch, and her folder of drawings had spilled. Open. One page showed a robot with purple wings. My throat tightened. Then it went cold. "My daughter," I said, "does not kneel for your assistant." The lobby went silent. Claire blinked, as if I had spoken a language she no longer understood. Preston gave a soft laugh. She ran through the lobby like a spoiled brat and knocked into me. She ruined my shoes right before an investor came through. I asked her to apologize. That's discipline. You made a 9-year-old child kneel in a corporate lobby. She refused to show respect. I stepped between him and Sophie. I did not shove him. I did not raise my voice. I simply put my body where it should have been from the beginning, between my daughter and the person hurting her. "Sophie," I said, holding out my hand. "Stand up." She scrambled to her feet and grabbed my hand with both of hers. Claire sighed. That sound did something to me. Not a gasp. Not concern. Not anger toward Preston. A sigh, as if I had inconvenienced her. "Nathan, please don't make this worse," she said. "We have investors in the building. Preston has been handling everything all morning. Sophie shouldn't have been running around unsupervised." She called me crying. Claire glanced at Sophie, then back at me. She gets emotional. You know that. Sophie's grip tightened around my fingers. I looked at my wife, and 12 years of marriage stood between us. 10 years of building Asteroid systems from a folding table in my father's old repair garage. 9 years of telling myself Claire was under pressure. 8 years of stepping out of the spotlight so she could stand in it. Every birthday dinner I left early because she had an investor call. Every school event I attended alone because she was carrying the company. Every time Preston interrupted family time and Claire answered him before she answered. Her own daughter. All of it narrowed into one image. Sophie on her knees. The question was no longer whether Claire loved me. The question was whether she still knew what love was supposed to protect. Preston shifted beside me. "You're being emotional, Nathan," he said. "I get it. You're her father. But this is a professional environment. Maybe if you came around more often, you'd understand how standards work here." There it was. The little needle he had been sliding under my skin for 2 years. "You are not here. You do not matter here. This is Claire's world, not yours. I turned to the front desk. Mara. The receptionist flinched. Yes, Mr. Mercer. Preserve the security footage from every lobby camera from 2:15 p.m. to now. Send a copy to the legal archive. Do not route it through Preston. Do not route it through Claire's office. Preston's smile weakened. Claire stared at me. Nathan. I did not look away from Mara. Confirm you heard me. Mara swallowed. Yes, Mr. Mercer. I'll preserve the footage. Preston stepped forward. You can't just give orders to staff because your feelings are hurt. I lifted my phone slightly. I have the last 2 minutes recorded. Would you like to repeat that for the file? His face changed. Not much, but enough. Claire noticed. Nathan, stop, she said quietly. You're embarrassing everyone. No, I said. Preston embarrassed himself. You embarrassed yourself. And both of you hurt our daughter. Claire's face tightened. That is not fair. I almost laughed. For years, fair had been Claire's shield. It was not fair if I asked her to come home for dinner. It was not fair if I questioned Preston texting her past midnight. It was not fair if Sophie cried because her mother missed another school play. It was not fair if I reminded Claire that my patents, my code, my collateral, and my family trust kept this company alive when investors called her too ambitious behind. Closed doors. Fair had always meant Claire did not want to be held accountable. Sophie, I said gently, get your backpack. She let go of my hand only long enough to gather her things. Her fingers shook as she shoved the drawings into the folder. One page tore at the corner, and she froze as if another adult might punish her for that too. I took the folder from her. It's okay. Preston cleared his throat. This is ridiculous, Claire. We have to go upstairs. Mr. Mercer can have his parenting moment somewhere else. Mr. Mercer, not Nathan, not founder, not majority shareholder, just Mr. Mercer, spoken like I was a difficult visitor. Claire looked at me with controlled frustration. Take Sophie home. We'll talk tonight. No, she frowned. No, we're not going to pretend this is a misunderstanding. We're going to handle this correctly. Preston scoffed. Correctly? I put one hand on Sophie's shoulder and made the first decision I should have made a long time ago. I called my attorney. Claire's eyes widened when she saw the name on my screen. Graham, she whispered. Nathan, don't. Graham Vale answered on the second ring. Nathan, everything all right? No, I need you to activate the Founder Protection Clause. Half a second of silence. Then his voice changed. Is this about Astoror? It's about Astoror, my daughter, executive misconduct, security footage, and a CEO who just chose her assistant over a child. Claire went pale. Preston opened his mouth, but no sound came out. Graham did not ask if I was sure. Good lawyers know the difference between anger and decision. Are you on company property? He asked. Yes. Recorded evidence? Yes. Personal audio and lobby cameras. Preserve everything. Do not surrender your phone. I'm notifying corporate counsel, the independent directors, and building management. Who is the assistant? Preston Hale. His name landed in the lobby like a drop blade. Understood, Graham said. Any immediate safety concern? I looked down at Sophie. Her eyes were fixed on Claire. Not angry. Not even confused anymore. Just hurt in a way no child should have to learn. Yes, I said. My daughter is not to be approached by Preston Hale again. Effective immediately. Preston snapped. You don't have the authority to do that. I finally looked at him fully. I own the building you're standing in. I own the patent your salary depends on. I own 58% of the voting rights in the company you've been using to play Prince. And for reasons I'm now ashamed of, I let my wife pretend none of that mattered. The lobby did not breathe. Claire whispered, Nathan. I did not look at her. Graham, send the notice. I'm on it. I ended the call. Preston's face reddened, but fear had begun to show beneath the anger. He looked at Claire, waiting for her to fix it, waiting for the CEO to put the quiet husband back in his place. Claire stepped closer and lowered her voice. You are overreacting. I understand you're upset, but this is not how adults handle things. Be mature. Don't embarrass everyone over a child's tantrum. I felt Sophie flinch against me. That was the final lock clicking shut. My daughter's humiliation is not a tantrum, I said. and your assistant's ego is not a company asset. Claire's eyes flashed. You would threaten the company we built because Preston made Sophie apologize? No, I said. I'm taking back the company I built because you watched my child kneel and told me to be mature. I turned to Leon, the security supervisor near the turnstiles. He had been with us since the garage days, back when security meant locking a side door with a dented key on. He straightened. Yes, Mr. Mercer? Until legal review is complete, Mr. Hale's executive floor access is suspended. He may remain in public areas only with security escort. If he approaches my daughter, call the police. Preston barked a laugh. This is insane. Leon did not laugh. He stepped toward Preston with professional calm. Mr. Hale, I'll need your badge. Preston looked at Claire. Claire, tell him. She opened her mouth. I waited. It was the last chance I gave her. Not to save our marriage, but to stand at least once on the right side of her daughter. Claire looked at Sophie, then at the employees, then at the investor badge visible behind reception. This could be handled privately, she said. Sophie lowered her head, and I knew there would be no more chances. I guided my daughter toward the doors. Preston called after me. You'll regret turning a family issue into a corporate one. I stopped at the threshold and looked back. No, Preston. You turned my family into your stage. I'm just turning the lights on. Outside, Sophie leaned into me like her legs could barely hold her. I buckled her into the back seat myself. She did not speak until I got behind the wheel. Dad, she whispered. I looked at her in the rearview mirror. I'm here. Am I in trouble? The question broke something clean inside me. No, I said steadily. You are not in trouble. Not with me. Not ever for being scared. Her chin trembled. Mom looked mad. I know. Is she mad at me? I gripped the steering wheel. She made the wrong choice today. That is not your fault. Sophie pressed her folder to her chest. Mr. Preston said Mom lets him decide who belongs upstairs. I looked at the glass tower behind us. That building had my father's garage in its foundation, my code in its servers, my signature in its bylaws, my trust on its patents, and my marriage in its walls. My phone buzzed. Graham's message appeared. Founder protection notice delivered. Emergency document hold active. Independent directors notified. Building management awaiting confirmation. Then Claire texted, do not do this. Come back upstairs and talk like my husband. I looked at Sophie's red knees in the mirror. Then I typed back, I'm talking like her father. I hit send and drove away. By the time we reached home, Claire had called 11 times. I did not answer. Sophie sat at the kitchen island in her socks, both knees wrapped in cooling pads because she said the floor had been harder than it looked. I set a mug of hot chocolate in front of her. She tried to smile, but the smile could not hold its own weight. Our house was quiet in the way expensive houses become quiet when they are designed for a family that rarely occupies the same room. In the hallway, framed magazine covers showed Claire smiling under headlines. Astor's visionary CEO. The woman rewiring American logistics. Claire Mercer built the future. I used to be proud of those covers. At first, I called it love. Later, partnership. That afternoon, while my daughter stared at untouched hot chocolate, I finally called it what it had become. Erasure. Messages kept coming. Claire was furious that Preston had been made to hand over his badge in front of employees. Sophie looked up and asked if her mother was still mad. That is not your job to worry about, I told her. But if she loses her company because of me, Sophie, I said, gentle but firm. A grown man chose to humiliate you. Your mother chose not to stop him. I chose to protect you. None of that is your fault. Then she told me Preston had said, I only used to own part of the company, and people who did not work there should not act important. That was when I understood. Preston had not merely abused borrowed authority. He had been teaching my daughter where she stood in her own family. Below him, I called Leon. He confirmed Preston had left through the side entrance after Claire escorted him out, but not before trying to keep a temporary pass. I asked for Preston's badge logs for the last 12 months. Executive floors, garage, server level, legal archive, and the old Randy wing. Leon paused. Yes, sir, he said carefully. He's been using that floor regularly. His badge was upgraded 6 months ago. Mrs. Mercer approved it. Of course she had. The old Randy wing had been mine. Not on any current seating chart, but everyone from the early days knew it. That was where I wrote the first routing engine at 3 in the morning. Where Claire once slept under my coat on a break room couch before our first investor demo. Where Sophie took her first steps while I debugged a system crash with one hand and held a stuffed giraffe with the other. Then Mara called. She had preserved the footage. She had also saved the visitor feed. Preston had come back through the side entrance and asked who told her to archive it. What did you say? That you did. And he said quiet people should stay in quiet jobs. My jaw tightened. Then Mara said something that changed everything. Mr. Mercer, this isn't the first time. Preston had done this to junior employees. Public apologies. Forced humiliation. Accountability, he called it. HR had tried to warn Claire. People stopped reporting after that. I called Graham again. He asked me the question I knew was coming. Nathan, are you ready to go all the way? I looked at the magazine covers in the hallway. Claire smiling beneath studio lights. Claire accepting awards. Claire on stage with Preston in the background, his hand on the back of her chair like he belonged there. I should have gone all the way the moment Sophie called me crying, I said. Then we began. 1 hour later, I returned to Asteroid. The atmosphere had changed. People watched me through glass walls. Conversation stopped and restarted in lower voices. Leon met me at security with badge logs. Preston had already tried to reactivate his access through IT. Who submitted the request? I asked. Leon's mouth tightened. Mrs. Mercer's office. Even after everything, Claire was trying to put him back where he could reach my family. And my files. When the elevator opened on the old Randy floor, the first thing I noticed was the smell. It no longer smelled like soldering irons, old coffee, and machine oil. It smelled like new leather and artificial cedar, the kind pumped into luxury hotel lobbies. My office door was open. Inside, my workbench was gone. The whiteboards had been wiped clean. The wall where Sophie once taped crayon drawings of Daddy's robots now held a framed print. Execution beats ideas. Preston walked out of my office smiling. Nathan, he said, you should have scheduled this. Behind him stood Claire, arms folded. I looked past them into the room where I had written the first line of Asteroid's routing engine. Preston's jacket hung on the back of the chair. My daughter had knelt in the lobby while this man sat in my office. Something inside me became perfectly still. Move, I said. Preston chuckled. This is active launch space now. Whatever nostalgia you're having can wait. I'm opening my safe. His face flickered. Claire stared. You still have a safe in here? Yes. I thought you cleared everything out years ago. You thought a lot of things because I let you. The safe was behind a bookshelf Preston had replaced with a glass cabinet full of awards he had not earned. I pressed the hidden panel near the floor. The wall clicked open. Inside were the original incorporation certificates, founder share agreements, patent assignments, early investor side letters, and a licensing contract between Mercer Trust and Asteroid Systems. I removed the folders one by one. Preston tried to laugh. It came out dry. Paper doesn't run a company. No, I said, but paper proves who owns one. At that moment, Graham sent an urgent email. Draft board consent found. The attachment was a proposed recapitalization and voting rights adjustment. I read the first paragraph, then the second. Then I looked at Claire. Were you planning to dilute my voting control before or after Preston made my daughter kneel? She stepped back. Preston spoke quickly. That document was preliminary. I turned the phone so Claire could see the metadata. Prepared by Preston Hale. Approved for CEO review today, 11:42 a.m. 2 hours before Sophie knelt in the lobby. For the first time, Claire looked at Preston without certainty. I called Graham. Add attempted unauthorized recapitalization to the review. Claire whispered, Nathan, wait. I looked at her. She was finally scared. Not when Sophie cried. Not when Preston was exposed. Not when I said our daughter had been hurt. Only now, when the crown on her head shifted. No, I said. I waited long enough. That evening, Claire's mother Vivian summoned me to dinner. Claire never fought alone when family pressure could do the work for her. Vivian Ashford had treated me for 12 years like a useful appliance. Quiet, reliable, and rude only if I stopped functioning. She told me Claire was devastated. Preston was under terrible stress. My little scene had humiliated everyone. I stood in Sophie's doorway, watching her sleep with the bedside lamp on. She had asked if she could keep the door open. She had never asked that before. Vivian said Sophie had thrown a tantrum, and I was destroying Claire's career because a child cried. Then she told me Preston would be at dinner, at their family dinner, the man who made their granddaughter kneel. When I repeated the word granddaughter, Vivian went silent. People reveal hidden hierarchies under pressure. Sophie was family when Vivian wanted grandmother photographs. She became negotiable when Preston needed protection. "We'll be there in 30 minutes, I said. Elena, my sister, had arrived by then in scrubs, carrying soup, strawberries, and the kind of protective anger only an aunt can bring into a room. When I told her we were going to Vivian's, she stared at me. "They invited Preston?" "Yes. They think they can corner you. They think Sophie will stay quiet if enough adults stare at her." I picked up the folder Graham had sent. "They're wrong. At Vivian and Howard Ashford's gated house, the dining table was set for 7. Claire sat pale, but composed. Howard had wine. Daniel, Claire's brother, scrolled on his phone. Preston sat beside my wife, wearing a fresh shirt and wounded dignity. Sophie's hand found mine. Vivian clapped once. "All right. Sit down. We're going to talk like adults." I pulled out the chair closest to the door for Sophie. Then I remained standing. Daniel smirked. "Here we go." The silent founder finally found his voice. Preston's mouth twitched. Daniel continued, saying I had spent years acting like I did not care about the company, and now wanted to play king because his kids spilled coffee. I turned to Sophie. "Do you want to wait in the living room with your headphones?" Preston leaned back. "That might be best. Adult conversations can be upsetting for children who struggle with accountability." Sophie went rigid. I put a hand on her shoulder. "Stay right where you are." Then I looked at Preston. "Speak to my daughter like that again, and dinner ends before the soup." Howard set down his wine. "Nathan, enough. You're in my house." "No," I said. Vivian blinked. "This house is owned by Ashford Family Holdings, a holding company I created 6 years ago when Howard's investment partnership collapsed and foreclosure was coming." Silence. Daniel slowly lowered his phone. I opened the folder and placed documents on the table. Mortgage arrears paid by me. Property taxes paid by me. Howard's cardiac specialist paid by me. Daniel's failed restaurant lease paid by me. Daniel's second failed restaurant lease also paid by me. Vivian's Lexus titled through my trust. Beach club membership on my card. Howard's legal settlement with former partners handled by my attorney. Daniel shot up. "You arrogant bastard." Sophie flinched. "I did not sit down," I said. Claire's voice tightened. "You kept records?" "Yes. Of helping my family. Of transferring large sums at my wife's request to people who now think my daughters. Dignity matters less than Preston's shoes." Preston stood. "Leave me out of your family money drama." "You sat at the table," I said. "You're in it." Vivian said they never asked me to throw money in their faces. "No," I replied. "You asked me to throw money quietly." Then I told them every voluntary financial support would end. The Lexus would be collected. The beach club closed. Daniel's guarantee withdrawn. Howard's medical bills would continue for 30 days because I was not cruel, but after that they would arrange payment themselves. The house would be reviewed for occupancy terms. Vivian gripped the table. "You can't throw us out." "I'm not throwing anyone out tonight. I'm ending the fantasy that you could depend on me while disrespecting my child." Then I slid the next document toward Preston. Company card charges. Luxury dinners. Hotel suites during investor trips. Wardrobe reimbursements marked as executive presentation expenses. A watch purchased from Veyron and Company and categorized as client hospitality. I looked at Claire. Did our investors wear the watch? Or did Preston? Claire stared at the page. Preston reached for it. I placed my hand over the document. "Careful. That copy is for dinner. The originals are already with counsel." By the time Sophie and I left, the room had changed. 10 minutes earlier, I had been the dramatic husband. Now everyone at the table was looking at Preston with suspicion. Outside, Sophie breathed deeply in the cold night air. "Dad." "Yes." Grandma Vivian looked scared. "She did. Is it bad that I'm glad?" I opened the car door for her. "Oh, Sometimes scared is what people feel when they finally meet the truth. The next morning, Sophie did not want to go to school. Everyone might know, she said, standing in front of her closet with one sock on. Some people might, I told her, but knowing what happened does not mean they get to make you feel small. At school, Ms. Alvarez met us with gentle eyes. Then the counselor, Mr. Reeves, asked to speak with me. Behind his closed office door, he told me Sophie had mentioned Preston before. After a company family day. After waiting outside Claire's office for more than an hour. After Preston said the company car was needed for an executive lunch and made Sophie late to school. The school had contacted Claire after one incident. Claire said it was a misunderstanding and that I already knew. I did not. Then Mr. Reeves read Sophie's words from Family Day. Mr. Hale told me not to touch the prototype because my father doesn't work there anymore, so I shouldn't act like the place belongs to me. My daughter had swallowed that and still drawn robots with purple wings. I had mistaken resilience for peace. By 10 that morning, the emergency board call began. Claire tried to frame everything as a parenting disagreement that had become emotional. I corrected her. A company executive with delegated authority forced a child to kneel in the lobby during business hours. Multiple employees witnessed it. Security footage exists. He then attempted to interfere with evidence preservation. That is not a parenting disagreement. Claire insisted Preston was not an executive. I opened the badge report. Executive floor access. Server-level visitor authority. Approval routing privileges. Expense discretion over $25,000. Access to the old Randy wing. If he is not an executive, I asked, why does he have executive power? The board went silent. Then Graham presented the recapitalization draft, HR complaints, expense anomalies, and evidence that Preston had been present in Claire's office during the document hold. Evelyn Hart, one of our earliest directors, finally spoke. Motion, pending investigation, suspend Preston Hale's access to systems, offices, financial approvals, employee management channels, and executive communications. Jones seconded. Marcus agreed. Thomas hesitated, then agreed. Claire said, you can't do that 3 days before launch. Evelyn replied, we just did. Then an unknown sender sent me hotel invoices. Claire Mercer, Preston Hale, one suite, Chicago, Boston, Seattle. The message read, you should know what else he's been using your company for. I forwarded it to Graham. Claire saw my face change. What did you find? She asked. I looked into the camera. Another floor in the house you built on my silence. The audit on the old Randy floor turned the insult into a crime scene. Dana Ruiz, a forensic accountant, found vendor summaries, printed emails, and a handwritten list labeled Q3 leverage points. One line read, NM unlikely to intervene if framed as CEO empowerment. Another, if needed, seek and argue emotional instability child issue. NM was me. C was Claire. Preston had not merely planned to take power. He had planned the story he would use if I resisted. IT found scans of founder agreements, patent licenses, and a draft memo naming me founder emeritus. Historical contributions, it said. Apparently Preston meant to turn me into company history. Then Dana found the vendor network. Northline Strategy. Harlan Advisory. Greyip Solution. Different names, same service agent, linked to Preston's sister. Millions had moved through them. Claire looked sick. I didn't approve fraud, she whispered. No, Graham said, but you may have approved the access that enabled it. Then Claire finally admitted the affair. 8 months. 8 months that included Sophie's birthday, my father's memorial dinner, Chicago, the launch rehearsals, and the school art night she missed because she was stuck downtown. She told me she ended it after the lobby. After he made our daughter kneel, I said. She sobbed. Not before the hotel rooms became normal. Not before he mocked me. Not before employees complained. Not before school called. After Sophie became collateral damage too visible to deny. Preston tried to keep fighting. He messaged Claire, telling her I was isolating her. That he had done everything for her. That if he went down, I would make sure she went with him. Then he tried to access the client data room from Claire's company lease condo using her secondary executive credentials. He downloaded part of the Orion customer mapping file, before IT cut him off. The largest contract in company history was suddenly at risk. For the first time, Claire did not ask me to stop. She asked me, with her eyes, to save what remained. I called it. Lock every credential tied to Claire's office. Notify Orion under confidentiality. Prepare a criminal referral. Preston was later brought back by detectives after trying to retrieve files from a storage locker. In the hallway, he looked at Claire first. Tell them this is a misunderstanding. She froze. Then he shouted that she had approved everything, that she had loved having him handle the dirty work. His final instinct was to drag her down because he could not climb out. I told Evelyn to prepare the board package. CEO transition, I said. Claire whispered. And me? The company needs leadership its employees can trust. She asked what she needed. You need to learn the difference between losing power and facing consequences. Launch night had originally been designed as Claire's triumph. 300 guests. Investors. Clients. Employees. A stage built under suspended lights. The original program listed Claire as keynote speaker, Preston as executive operations lead, me as founder emeritus, table 14, vendor overflow. By 4 p.m., the program had been rewritten. Claire spoke first for 5 minutes. She apologized to employees. She admitted she had allowed informal power to grow where accountability should have been. She said she dismissed concerns because they were inconvenient. She said one failure involved a child who should have been protected better by every adult present, including her. Then I walked on stage. For years, I had avoided lights. But silence leaves rooms for louder men. My name is Nathan Mercer, I said. I wrote Astor's first routing engine in a repair garage that smelled like oil, dust, and burnt coffee. I told them support without accountability becomes neglect. I accepted my part in stepping too far away from the culture I helped create. Then I laid out the new systems, access controls, expense review, HR independence, employee reporting protections, client data security, governance oversight. The demo worked flawlessly. Then Evelyn announced the board's decision. I would become executive chair. Evelyn would serve as interim CEO. Claire would take a leave of absence pending the investigation. Preston Hale had been terminated for cause, and materials had been referred to law enforcement. Then Preston appeared through a service corridor, wearing someone else's staff badge. He could never resist a stage. He shouted that I was stealing the company from the woman who made it, that I hid at home while Claire did all the work, that I was using my daughter to punish my wife. Claire stepped forward. Stop. He pointed at her. Tell them the truth. Her voice shook. The truth is you made my daughter kneel. The room went dead quiet. Preston sneered. Oh, now she's your daughter. Convenient. That was the moment he lost whatever scraps of sympathy confusion might have given him. I took the microphone. Enough. Mr. Hale is under investigation for misconduct, financial irregularities, unauthorized access to client data, and retaliation against employees. This event concerns Astor's future, not his need for attention. Preston tried to drag the affair into the room. I stopped him. I will not let my daughter's life become your last performance. Security escorted him out while he shouted about lawsuits and betrayal. For several seconds, no one spoke. Then Mara began to clap. Leon joined. Then the old Randy team. Then the room. It was not celebration. It was release. Afterward, backstage, I handed Claire the divorce petition, temporary custody order, and property separation notice. Tonight, she whispered. Yes. After I apologized? An apology is not a reset button. She asked, what about us? I looked at the empty stage behind her. There is no us left that I can trust with my daughter. Divorce court was quieter than the boardroom. Sophie remained primarily with me. Claire received supervised visits. Preston was barred from any direct or indirect contact with Sophie. Claire was prohibited from discussing the company dispute or divorce with her. The therapist read Sophie's statement. I don't want to go to Mom's office if Mr. Preston is there. I don't want to say sorry when I didn't do anything bad. I want Mom to believe me before other people. Claire covered her mouth. No one comforted her. The judge told her rebuilding trust with a child required patience. Do not ask for reassurance from her, the judge said. Give safety without demanding comfort. The Ashford family's financial fantasy ended too. The house was not theirs outright. The cars, club memberships, medical expenses, debts, and bailouts had never been. Permanente obligation. Vivian tried to corner me near the vending machines. We are Sophie's grandparents, she said. No, I replied. You called her negotiable when Preston needed protection. The Ashfords accepted a 12-month lease at market rate. Daniel lost his restaurant before it opened. Howard sent Sophie a handwritten apology. Her therapist approved it before I showed her. Sophie read it twice and said, Grandpa Howard uses periods like he's scared. He probably is. Can I think about it? Always. That became our rule. No forced forgiveness. No rash heating. No kneeling to adult guilt. 6 weeks later, we reopened the lobby. Same tower. Same glass doors. Same polished floor. But it no longer felt the same. Mara had been promoted to workplace safety and guest experience lead. Leon's team had direct authority outside executive operations. HR complaints no longer vanished into the CEO's office. Badge upgrades required documentation. Executive expenses required dual review. Systems cannot create morality, but they can stop cowards from hiding behind confusion. Sophie came that morning in a yellow cardigan, carrying a poster tube almost as tall as her arm. She had asked to come. I asked 3 times if she was sure. Dad, she said, irritated, I'm not made of glass. No, I said, but glass can cut people. I'm careful. Inside, employees stood quietly. Some had been there the day Preston made her kneel. I saw recognition in their faces. Shame in some. Not malicious shame. Human shame. The kind that comes from remembering when fear made you still. Mara approached first. Supia. I'm really glad you're here. Sophie looked at her. You saved the video. Mara's eyes shone. Yes. Thank you. Leon gave Sophie a solemn nod. Good morning, Miss Mercer. She smiled a little. Good morning, Mr. Leon. We had not planned a grand ceremony. Not even. No press. No investors. Just employees, coffee, and one wall near reception where we would display artwork from employees' families. Sophie's poster was first. She unrolled it carefully. It showed the lobby, but not exactly as it was. The glass doors were bright blue. The floor was covered in stars instead of white stone. A girl in a yellow cardigan stood in the center, holding hands with a tall man in a black suit. Around them stood people with open mouths, not laughing, not judging, but listening. Above the doors, in purple letters, Sophie had written, "And no more kneeling." The room went silent. Then Mara cried. Leon stared at the ceiling. Evelyn pressed a hand to her heart. I crouched beside Sophie. Are you sure you want it up? She nodded. People should remember. So we put it up. Not as branding. Not as a scandal trophy. As a rule. Afterward, I took Sophie upstairs to the old Randy floor. The cedar smell was gone. Preston's furniture had been removed. My scarred old workbench had been restored from storage. Sophie's robot with purple wings was taped crookedly beside the whiteboard. She ran her hand over the bench. This was yours? Yes. Before Mom was CEO? Before there was a CEO? It's messy. It's a lab. It smells funny. It smells like ideas. It smells like old coffee. That too. She climbed onto the stool and spun once. Are you going to work here again? Some days. Can I come after school sometimes? Yes. But no running through the lobby with open paint water. She gave me a look. Too soon, Dad. I laughed. It surprised both of us. 3 days later, Claire sent me a handwritten letter. She did not ask for forgiveness. She did not ask to come back. She wrote that asking would only make me carry what she had broken. She said she failed me and failed Sophie. She said she let admiration become addiction. She said she let Preston make her feel chosen in rooms where she already had everything that mattered. She wrote, I watched the lobby video again today because my therapist asked me to name. The moment I lost my daughter's trust, it was not when Preston told her to kneel. It was when I arrived and did not tell her to stand. I read it once, then placed it in a folder labeled for Sophie, therapist approved only. Some truths belong to children only when they are old enough to decide what to do with them. Claire's visits with Sophie improved slowly. She learned not to cry in a way that made Sophie comfort her. She learned to say, "I was wrong," without adding, "but I was stressed." She learned that motherhood after betrayal was not a speech. It was showing up, accepting distance, not demanding applause for basic decency. One evening, after a supervised visit, Claire lingered on the porch. She asked if there was any future where someday we tried again. There was no audience, no preston, no board, no lawyer, just a woman outside the home she had lost, asking whether regret could become a key. I felt sadness, real sadness. But sadness was not doubt. "No," I said. Her face folded, but she stayed standing. "I hope you become a good mother to Sophie. I hope you rebuild a life you can respect. I hope you learn peace without applause. But I will not remarry the person who made me prove our daughter mattered." Tears slid down her cheeks. "I understand," she whispered. "I hope you do. I hate that I do." She walked to her car. I watched until she drove away, not because I wanted her back, but because this was the final courtesy one gives to a closed chapter. You make sure it leaves the driveway. Then you shut the door. Months passed in ordinary ways. That turned out to be the most beautiful revenge. Sophie's knees healed before her heart did. But her heart healed too. Not all at once. Not because anyone demanded it. Safety simply repeated itself enough times to become believable. She joined robotics club. At first, she made me wait in the parking lot. Then she let me leave if my phone stayed loud. By the fourth week, she forgot to text me because she was arguing about placement with a boy named Max, who apparently had strong opinions and weak engineering. Astor changed too. We lost people who preferred the old chaos. Good. We gained people who asked harder questions. Evelyn ran the company with less glamour and more discipline. I spent one afternoon a week with new hires and told them the real garage story. Not the magazine version. The failed demos. The payroll fear. Claire's early brilliance. My own absence. Preston's rise. The lobby. The lesson. Never build a system that requires silence from decent people. If your process only works when nobody complains, I told them, your process is already broken. Mara printed that on a card and put it behind reception. Leon pretended not to like it. A year after the lobby incident, we held a family event at the company. Picnic tables, food trucks, children with sticky hands. Engineers try to explain robots to toddlers who only wanted to press buttons. Sophie's poster still hung at the center of the artwork wall. No more kneeling. The paper had faded slightly at the edges. I asked if she wanted to replace it. She shook her head. No, it should look like it stayed. Claire came halfway through the event. Sophie had invited her, not me. That distinction mattered. Claire brought lemonade, stayed away from company conversations, and introduced herself to. No one is anything but Sophie's mom. Some employees greeted her warmly. Some did not. She accepted both. Preston's sentencing hearing was scheduled for the following month after a plea agreement. On data theft and financial charges. His shell companies were gone. His company-paid apartment was gone. The watch was recovered. Former employees joined claims. His name came up less and less. That was what men like him feared most. Not hatred, irrelevance. Later, as the sun lowered behind the glass tower, Sophie and I stood in the lobby together. The crowd had moved outside. Gold light reflected across the floor. The place looked almost gentle. She slipped her hand into mine. "Do you ever wish it didn't happen?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "I wish you never had to feel that." But then would things be the same as before? I looked toward the executive elevators, toward reception, toward the wall where her poster hung. "No," I said after a moment. Something else would have broken. Maybe later. Maybe worse. She thought about that. Mom says she was asleep with her eyes open. That sounds like something her therapist helped her say. Do you think it's true? I think sometimes people don't look at what they don't want to change. Did you? The question landed clean. Children, when safe, become brave enough to ask adults real questions. Yes, I said, I did. She squeezed my hand. But you woke up? I looked at the spot on the floor where I had first seen her on her knees. Then I looked at my daughter standing beside me. Yes, I said, I did. For years, I thought strength meant carrying more. More pressure, more silence, more bills, more disappointment. More explanations for people who benefited from my restraint. I was wrong. Strength was knowing when to stop carrying what others kept throwing at your child's feet. Strength was preserving the evidence. Making the call, taking back the badge, signing the papers, closing the door, building something better from the place where someone tried to make you bow. Sophie looked up at me. Can we go home now? I smiled. Home. Not the house. Not the company. Not the marriage I had lost. The word had become simpler. Where she was safe. Where I was honest. Where no one had to kneel to be loved. Yes, I said, let's go home. We walked out through the glass doors together, past the cameras, past the desk, past the floor that no longer owned her fear. Behind us, her poster remained on the wall. No more kneeling. Not for assistance. Not for applause. Not for family that only valued silence. Not for love that forgot how to protect. Never again.